Have you ever needed to measure people's preferences or attitudes? Have you ever had to prioritize dozens of items, actions, or policies for your organization? Whether you work in the private sector, government, healthcare, economics, psychology, or marketing insights, a simple yet powerful research technique known as best-worst scaling, or MaxDiff, could be just what you need in your toolbox. So what is MaxDiff, and what can it do for you? Let's consider Bill, who's looking to open a diner. Bill wants to know what to put on his menu and realizes people have different tastes. He also wants to prioritize the menu so it doesn't become too long and complicated, resulting in customers who are overwhelmed with choices. Even though you might not be opening a diner, you've probably faced the challenge of prioritizing a list of advertising claims, product features, policies, or initiatives. You've likely wanted to compare groups of people and select an optimal subset of items to motivate the greatest number of people. You're not alone. Researchers have been trying to quantify human attitudes and preferences for decades, and some approaches work much better than others. For example, Bill could ask respondents to rate main dishes on, say, a 5-point scale. But they typically will register lots of ties, making it hard to discriminate among items. Making matters worse, different respondents will use the scale differently, depending on their cultural backgrounds. Or maybe even their moods that day. Of course, it's really difficult to compare groups of people when they use the same scale differently. Plus, Bill wants to ask respondents to evaluate around 30 potential main dishes, so these grids would be even longer than shown here. Sorting tasks will force respondents to discriminate among items, but these lists can become difficult and inaccurate for respondents to handle, especially when rank sorting a long list, like Bill's situation with 30 menu items. And since many respondents take surveys on their mobile phones, big rating grids or ranking exercises pose an even bigger challenge. So now that you see the challenges Bill is up against, let's demonstrate how best-worst scaling, or MaxDiff, can provide a better option. For decades, researchers have sought better ways to elicit attitudes, importance scores, and preferences. As a successful example, paired comparisons don't involve a rating scale at all. When shown 2 options at a time, people can choose which they prefer, no matter their cultural background, age, or education. With paired comparisons, Bill could measure people's preferences for main dishes based on how many times each was picked and which other items it was compared to. So how does this lead us to best-worst scaling? In the 1980s, Jordan Louvier proposed what ends up being a quicker way to ask what can be viewed as paired comparisons. He showed 3 or more items at a time, and respondents picked just the best and the worst. Louvier recognized that people were good at identifying extremes, the best and worst items, so he called it best-worst scaling. But depending on how the data are analyzed, it's also been called MaxDiff. In this case, if a respondent says a bacon burger is best and pasta marinara is worst, we can infer 5 of the possible 6 paired comparisons from just 2 clicks or taps. The bacon burger is better than the other 3 dishes, and both chicken pot pie and garden salad are better than pasta marinara. Across multiple questions, respondents compare all the items in many different rotations, and the scores from best-worst scaling are easy for Bill to interpret, since they can be placed on a ratio scale. Meaning, an 8 on the scale is twice as important or preferred as a 4. Best-worst scores show greater discrimination among the items than rating scales, show greater discrimination between respondents than rating scales, are free from scale use bias, and this all means that Bill can get better results with fewer respondents. Best-worst scaling provides excellent data for assigning respondents into segments where people within each group tend to think very similarly. And finding and sizing needs-based segments is key to effective target marketing. Traditional ways for classifying respondents include cluster and latent class analysis routines, and best-worst scaling makes these methods work better than ever. So, with a best-worst survey and a few hundred potential customers, Bill could identify his top 10 main dishes. He could compare results for children versus adults, or males versus females. He could also investigate needs-based segments. Although there are over 30 main dishes Bill could put on his menu, how can he choose the most effective 10 to satisfy the greatest number of people? Different niche groups can have different tastes. And just putting the top 10 main dishes on the menu isn't necessarily the best way to satisfy the most customers. There may be a niche group, say vegans, who can only be reached with certain offerings that the majority doesn't prefer. An optimization approach called TURF can select the best, say, 10 items to put on the menu, such that the greatest number of potential customers will be satisfied and find something they'd want to order. Not every best-worst study involves a TURF optimization, but it can provide additional insights for problems like Bill's. And Bill's Diner is just one example of the many situations that can benefit from best-worst and its TURF simulator. Great data lead to great decisions. You too can probably think of ways to apply these techniques to solve important problems for your organization. And the great news is that best-worst scaling is very robust and not difficult to do. Sawtooth Software has developed tools to manage the entire process, from questionnaire design to score estimation to simulation and optimization. We call our software MaxDiff, but more formally what we're doing is best-worst scaling. Thousands of companies, large and small, use our tools because not only are they easy to learn, but they provide power and flexibility when you need it. And because we offer free data collection and free support, we're also the more affordable option. With webinars, workshops, and conferences to give you the training you need, Sawtooth Software is the trusted source for data collection and choice modeling. And if you need extra help, we have a consulting division to help you reach the next level. To learn more about MaxDiff and how you can utilize best-worst scaling to achieve greater insights and results in your organization, please visit us at sawtoothsoftware.com, the survey software of choice.